The feather was still burning when I found it. Not flame, not ash, but fire sealed inside bone and marrow. I lifted it from the cracked altar with both hands, and it pulsed against my palms like a heart that had no right to keep beating. Warm, alive, wrong. The church was silent, roof collapsed, walls split by centuries of storms, and yet the air pressed against me as if someone still prayed here, someone who never left. I stood alone in the nave, moonlight falling through shattered glass, painting the floor in broken colors. I should have turned back. Instead, I held the feather closer. Threads of light ran through the shaft, gold and red, shifting with every breath I took. Each vein shimmered like blood seen under a candle. My fingers cramped, refusing to let go. The silence grew heavy. My footsteps echoed too long, as though the stones below remembered every soul that had ever knelt here. The air tasted of dust, but beneath it lingered the sharp tang of iron. Not incense, not mold, blood. I reached the chancel, and there it was, a slab of stone blackened and cracked, leaning against the ruined wall. The letters carved into it glowed faintly, cut deep and jagged, not smooth like scripture, but desperate, like warnings left by a dying hand. The words did not wait for me to read them. They pushed into me, sinking under my skin, hammering into the base of my skull. I staggered forward, eyes fixed on the lines. Rule 1. Never step into the nave after midnight without carrying the feather. Rule 2. If a fallen angel calls you by your true name, answer with silence. Rule 3. Always strike the wings first, never the heart. Rule 4. After each hunt, record the name of the fallen in the book of ash. The letters burned. I pressed my knuckles against my mouth, choking back a sound that tried to rise. I had not spoken, but the stone had heard me all the same. My name pounded in my head. Mateo. The rules wrapped around it, chains of fire. The feather throbbed harder in my grip. The glow inside it shifted to red, brighter. Pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat, I felt it binding itself to me. Not a relic, a command. The silence cracked. A faint sound rippled through the nave. Not footsteps, not wind, but a whisper. It slid through the shadows, brushing my ears like breath. I turned. Nothing. Only the rows of pews collapsed into rot. I stepped back, clutching the feather. The whisper came again, closer. A single word stretched into the dark. Hunter. The air tightened. The rules on the stone flared once more, searing into my vision until I saw nothing else. My knees locked, my teeth clenched. Hunter. The voice was not behind me. It was not above. It came from the feather itself, rising from the veins of light. My skin burned where it touched me. I tried to drop it, but my hands refused. Flesh fused to quill. The whisper hardened into a second voice, low and broken, echoing across the rafters of the ruined church. They are waiting. My chest heaved. The walls seemed closer, pressing in. Every stained glass shard glimmered, as if eyes watched me from their fractured surfaces. The whisper swelled, joined by others, overlapping, weaving together into a chorus without rhythm. Names. I did not know them, but I heard them. Names spoken in agony. Names spoken in triumph. Names that carried wings. The feather pulsed one last time, and the voices stopped. Silence fell, heavy, absolute. I opened my hand. The glow had dimmed, but the warmth stayed. The stone slab loomed before me. Letters still alive, bleeding faint light. My eyes locked on the last line. Record the name of the fallen in the book of ash. But the book was not there. Only the feather, still bound to my palm, waiting. I took a step back. The nave groaned as though the building itself exhaled. Dust fell from the beams high above. My shoulders stiffened. The sense of being watched had not faded. It had grown sharper, heavier, the weight of 1,000 eyes pressing into me. I raised my head. The crucifix still hung, cracked and scorched, high above the altar. Christ's face had worn away, the wood blackened, but the arms, stretched wide, remained. And in that moment, for a breath, I thought they moved. I blinked. The figure was still, silent, dead. But the feather throbbed once more, answering something I could not see. The feather did not cool. It stayed hot in my palm, pulsing steady as if it had claimed my heartbeat for its own. I stepped away from the altar, but the glow followed, searing faint light across the ruined floor. Every shadow recoiled when I moved. My breath echoed too loud in the nave. I forced myself to walk slower, though the urge to run clawed at my legs. The silence was not empty. It was waiting. The slab still burned in my eyes, each rule carved inside my skull. Rule 1. Never step into the nave after midnight without carrying the feather. I looked down. The quill dug into my palm. Whether I wanted it or not, the rule had already bound me. The second rule pressed harder. If a fallen angel calls you by your true name, answer with silence. I whispered my name once under my breath, as if testing if the air would carry it away. It did not. It hung there, heavy like bait. I walked past the first row of pews. Their wood sagged, wet with rot, split by time. Something moved between them, a small shift, like fabric dragged over wood. I froze. The glow from the feather stretched long across the seats. Nothing stood there, only broken wood and dust. Still, I felt the weight of presence, watching, listening. The feather pulsed harder. The rules whispered again. Rule 3. Always strike the wings first, never the heart. My throat tightened. The words had no reason to echo now, unless the time to obey was close. A sound drifted down from above. The rafters creaked. My eyes lifted. The crucifix still hung, blackened, split, the arms outstretched like a warning. Behind it, darkness moved. Not shape, not form, but a ripple, as if something pressed against the inside of the church itself. My mouth dried. I tightened my grip on the feather. The glow flared brighter, spilling across the nave. Another sound followed, softer. A whisper, low, stretched, curling from the side aisle. Not words, not yet, just breath. The voice shaped itself slowly. Hunter. My knees locked, my lungs stalled. The same word from before, now closer, not from the feather this time, but from the church itself. The air grew colder, my breath misted white. The glow of the feather trembled as if afraid. Hunter. This time, the word carried weight. The pews shuddered, the rafters moaned, my own name pressed against my lips. I bit down hard, clamping my teeth shut, remembering the rule. If a fallen angel calls you by your true name, answer with silence. But it was not silence that filled the nave. It was music. Faint at first, then swelling. Not organ, not choir. Voices, dozens layered, chanting words too old for me to understand. They rose from the side chapels, from the cracks in the stone, from the shattered windows. They filled the nave until my bones shook. The feather blazed red. Fire ran up the quill into my veins. My hands trembled, but I did not let go. The chant ended as abruptly as it began. The silence after was worse, empty but sharp. I stood alone, chest heaving. Then the voice came again. This time it spoke my name. Matteo. The sound cut straight through me, low, patient, certain. It knew. My throat ached with the need to respond, to break the rule. I bit my tongue until blood filled my mouth. I clenched my jaw. Silence. I forced silence. The pews shuddered again. Something shifted in the shadows, close, too close. The feather throbbed. Rule 3 screamed inside my skull. Strike the wings first, never the heart. The air cracked. From the far aisle, two shapes rose, vast, black, wings unfolding, scraping against the walls, feathers like broken knives. They stretched wider than the nave itself, each beat shaking dust from the rafters. The body attached to them remained hidden, lost in the dark, but the wings were enough. The rule had not lied. My chest hammered, the glow in my palm sharpened, bright as a blade now. The wings beat once more, and the nave trembled. Wood splitting, stone groaning. Dust rained down like ash. I raised the feather. The air was heavier than stone. My chest ached with every shallow breath. The wings above scraped against the rafters, scattering ash like snow. The feather in my palm pulsed harder, a hot vein of light that would not let me go. Then the voice rose. It came from the second booth, low at first, cracked by grief, but sharp enough to split through the dark. A woman's voice, but not gentle, not kind. You hid the truth. The booth trembled. Dust slipped through the rotten slats. You left her to bleed. The sound threaded into my marrow. The voice was no stranger's. It knew me. It spoke as if it had lived inside my skull, waiting for this night to uncoil. You prayed for mercy, but not for her. The feather answered. Its veins blazed red, fire crawling into my wrist, binding tendon and bone. My hand blistered, but I could not drop it. You begged forgiveness and abandoned her body in silence. The pews rattled. Nails shrieked as the wood bent. My knees shook, buckling under the weight of her words. You killed her, Matteo. My name struck like a hammer. The crucifix above cracked in response, the arms splitting down the grain, the figures straining as if nailed flesh remembered pain. Blood filled my mouth where I bit my tongue. The rule burned inside me. If a fallen calls your true name, answer with silence. My body screamed to shout, to deny, but I forced myself to choke on the words. Her voice dropped lower. The sound crawled along the walls, sliding under my ribs, whispering from every corner of the nave. You are not priest, you are not brother, you are hunter. The booth door creaked. Slowly, a pale hand slid out, white and trembling. The nails split to the root, skin cracked and slick with blood. The fingers traced the wood like writing. Each stroke left a smear that glowed faint red, as if the blood itself was alive. You will tear their wings, Matteo, because you tore hers first. The feather shuddered in my grip, its glow hardening. Not flame now, metal, iron, final. My chest heaved against it, the hand dragged lower, nails screeching, carving scars into the frame. Then it withdrew, slipping back into the slit. Silence fell, not relief, not safety. A silence so heavy it felt like a coffin closed over me. The booth stood still, but the smear of blood remained, wet, black, gleaming in the faint light, letters forming. Not carved by her hand, but by something deeper. The shape burned into the wood until it glowed. Hunter. The feather cooled in my hand, but it did not loosen. It hung heavy, a burden fused to my flesh. My ears rang. The nave seemed to shrink, walls bending closer. I staggered back, pressing against the cold stone of the altar. My breath rasped, shallow, broken. The word stared at me from the booth. Blood still dripped down the frame, each drop hitting the floor with a sound louder than bells. Hunter. I clenched my jaw, but my legs trembled. The feather pulsed once more, and I understood. The word was not left for her. It was not for the church. It was for me. Hunter. The voices were gone now. Only the echo of her last word remained, sinking deeper than bone, deeper than soul. I closed my eyes, but the dark behind them was worse. Her face pressed against the inside of my skull. Pale, hollow, mouth twisted in grief, eyes staring straight into me. You killed her." The whisper brushed against my ear again, this time softer, almost tender. "You hunt because you are guilty." I dropped to my knees. My hand clenched the feather so tight I felt bone grind. The glow dimmed. It was not light anymore. It was weight, it was judgment. The word still burned against the booth. Hunter, and the knave waited in silence, holding its breath as if it too had accepted the verdict. The word still burned in the booth. Hunter. Each letter pulsed faint red as though blood lived inside it. The knave was silent, yet my ears rang with the echo. I staggered to my feet. My knees shook. The feather hung heavy in my hand, no longer fire, no longer light, only weight. The silence broke. Not with voice, with glass. A faint shimmer at the edge of the nave. I turned and saw it. A mirror, leaning crooked against the collapsed wall, half buried in dust. I knew it had not been there before. The surface was cracked, veins spreading from the center like a wound. Yet it reflected me with perfect clarity. My face pale, my eyes wide. The feather clenched so hard my knuckles bled white. Then the reflection smiled. I had not moved. My lips were locked, my jaw was rigid, but the face in the mirror curved into a slow grin. My stomach lurched. I stumbled back. The mirror shook. The reflection lifted its hand. I did not. My fingers stayed frozen. Still the hand in the glass rose, palm open, as though blessing. The smile widened, eyes brightened to a pale, endless white. Cassiel. The name tore through my skull before I could speak it. The figure in the mirror tilted its head. The movement was familiar, almost kind, like a priest at confession, leaning close to absolve. But the words that spilled from his mouth were not absolution. "Hunter," the surface of the mirror rippled. My reflection stepped back, swallowed. Cassiel stood alone on the other side, his robes clean, his face serene, halo faint above his brow. He looked every inch a loyal angel, pure, untouched, but his smile never reached his eyes. They stayed fixed, unblinking, white fire without warmth. "You carry the feather," he said, voice smooth, low, almost tender. "You carry judgment." The feather in my hand flared. My arm jerked, forced to lift as if answering. My chest locked. I gasped, but the sound caught. Cassiel's hand pressed against the glass. The mirror cracked louder, a web of fractures racing outward. His palms stretched closer, closer, till I swore I could feel its cold through the air. "Strike the wings," he whispered, "never the heart." The rule echoed back from the slab, but twisted, corrupted. My pulse hammered. My knees bent as though the command had already chained me. "No," I hissed, forcing the word through clenched teeth. "You are not law." Cassiel's smile widened. The cracks spread. Dust rained from the frame as the mirror groaned. "You obey," he said softly. "You always obey." The feather pulsed red, brighter, hotter. My fingers blistered against it. I tried to release, but my hand clamped tighter. The glow spread into my veins. My breath came ragged, pulled by force not my own. Cassiel's voice deepened, stretching, echoing from the rafters as though the whole nave spoke with him. "You tore her wings. Now you will tear theirs." The cracks split to the edges. The mirror shuddered. His hand pushed through. Glass splintered outward as his pale fingers pierced the air. I stumbled back, but the nave had shrunk. The walls bent inward, pressing me toward him. His other hand pressed against the inside of the glass, both arms straining now. Pushing, forcing a passage. The halo above his head flickered like fire on water. I clenched the feather with both hands, dragging its light higher. My teeth ground until blood filled my mouth. Cassiel's grin split wider. His voice slithered through the cracks. "You are mine, Mateo. You were always mine." The mirror groaned. The frame snapped. A storm of glass rained onto the stone. His face leaned through. The mirror screamed as it split. Shards rained across the nave, slicing through air, scattering light. Cassiel leaned through the broken frame, his head and shoulders emerging first, his robe untouched by the glass tearing around him. His face stayed calm, serene, halo still, burning pale. I stumbled back, feather raised. My breath tore out of me in ragged bursts. Cassiel's hand reached fully into the nave, fingers pale, veins glowing faint beneath the skin. The cracks widened to let the rest of him through. "You are bound," he whispered, voice carrying like prayer. "Bound to wings, bound to ash, bound to me." The feather burned hotter. My palm blistered. Red veins of light raced across my arm, crawling into my chest. My heart hammered in rhythm. Each beat pulled tighter, faster. Cassiel's eyes never blinked. White fire stared through me, into me. His voice stretched, echoing against the stone. "Strike the wings, never the heart." My knees bent as if commanded. My grip lifted the feather like a blade, though my body shook with every motion. "No!" I forced through bloodied teeth. "You are not law." His smile flickered wider. His arms pushed harder. His body slipped halfway through, robes unmarked, halo steady. The nave groaned around us, then the first bell rang, low, heavy. The sound rolled down the stone, shuddering through the pews. The second followed, louder, longer. Dust rained from the beams. The third came last, a thunder note. The whole church shook. The slab behind me flared. Words burned into my skull, searing bright, impossible to deny. Rule 3. If the bell rings 3 times at 3 o'clock, kneel and recite the Lord's Prayer in reverse. My knees buckled. The command dragged me down. My palms hit the stone. The feather seared hotter, burning through my bones. Cassiel froze, still half in the mirror. His smile thinned, faltered, then stretched wider again. "Kneel, Hunter, pray. Pray backward until your voice breaks." The words pulsed. I tried to resist. My throat ached, but the roh would not be denied. "Our Father." My voice cracked. The words bent, twisted, spilled out of me in reverse. Each syllable scraped raw against my throat. The air shifted. Cold flooded the nave. The shadows thickened, bending low across the stone. The crucifix above creaked louder, splitting further down the center. Cassiel leaned closer, still calm, still burning pale. "Yes," he breathed. "You speak as I command. You speak as I wrote." My body shook. My voice faltered. The prayer reversed, word by broken word, pulling blood from my tongue. The feather trembled, glowing brighter, feeding the words out of me even when I wanted silence. Shadows crawled along the floor, twisting around my legs, binding my knees to the stone. They pulsed with each line I spoke. Cassiel spread his hands. His wings unfolded behind him, pressing against the glass until the frame shattered completely. Black feathers slid into the nave, dragging ash with every beat. He stepped fully free. The mirror fell silent, now only a frame of broken wood and dust. Cassiel's eyes blazed white. His halo flared brighter. He walked toward me slowly, unhurried, as if nothing could resist him. "Continue," he whispered. "Confess backward, break the prayer, shatter the chain." My throat tore as I forced the next line out. Words twisted, reversed, wrong. The nave trembled. The slab behind me shook, letters glowing, pulsing in rhythm with my failing voice. The shadows rose higher, climbing my chest, pressing into my ribs. Cassiel bent low, face inches from mine. His hand hovered above my head. The air pressed down, crushing. "You will tear their wings," he whispered, "because you already tore hers." My chest collapsed under the weight. My vision swam red, but the feather flared white-hot. For a moment, the weight broke. The glow lashed outward, searing across the stone. The shadows recoiled. Cassiel's smile faltered. My prayer stopped mid-line. My lungs burned, throat raw. Silence. The slab of rules still glowed, waiting for the words to finish. Cassiel leaned back. wings unfolding wider, halo blazing until the nave drowned in pale fire. "Hunter," he said softly. "Obey." When the bells stopped, the silence did not free me. It only tightened the chain. The bells were gone, but their echo still crushed my chest. My throat burned raw from words forced backward. The slab glowed faint, waiting, but the command faded into silence. Cassiel stood over me, wings spread, pale eyes fixed. The feather throbbed white-hot in my hand, the only thing keeping me from sinking completely into the stone. Then another sound pierced the quiet. "Enrico." "No, not Enrico. Matteo." My name twisted, but not by Cassio this time. This voice was softer, familiar. "Matteo!" I froze. It was her. Catherine. The sound rose from the shadows, from the broken rafters, from the cracks in the floor. For a moment I was no longer in the nave. I was 17 again, kneeling in the chapel before dawn. The candles were few, the floor cold against my knees. Catherine's voice had reached me even then, gentle, calm, unshakable. "There is no sin that vanishes," she had told me, "only sins that wait." The memory split, the nave twisted, walls bending, the chapel of my youth folded into the ruins before me. The scent of incense bled into dust and ash. I blinked, and she was there. Standing at the far end of the aisle, habit white, veil shadowing her face, but her eyes glowed. Not kind, not human. Cassiel did not move. His smile stayed fixed, but his wings bent low, feathers dragging across the floor. His gaze stayed locked on me, yet Catherine's voice drowned his presence. "You begged forgiveness," she said, tone steady, "but you never confessed the truth." The feather trembled in my grip. My knuckles cracked against it. Her voice grew louder, layered with echoes. "You prayed for mercy, but never for her." The words lashed across me like whips. My chest tightened. The nave spun. Catherine's veil fluttered, though no wind moved. Her hands lifted, palms open. "You abandoned her body," she said, "and buried her voice." The booths rattled again. Dust fell in clouds. Cassiel's voice slithered beneath hers, low, patient. "Listen to her. She names you." "No," I choked, but my throat cracked. Catherine stepped closer. Her eyes glowed brighter, the white bleeding into the nave until it stained every shadow. "You are guilty, Matteo," she said. "Guilty of silence, guilty of leaving, guilty of blood." Her words twisted into prayer, a psalm spoken backward, the sound of scripture unraveling, pouring through her lips like smoke. My ears rang, my skull throbbed, my knees hit the floor again. Cassiel leaned closer, whispering against my ear. "Do you hear? She carries the law. She carries your truth." The feather flared against my palm, resisting, burning hotter until skin peeled. My scream broke into the chant, mixing with Catherine's psalm until I could not tell one voice from the other. The memory fractured harder. I saw her again, younger, before the veil, before the vows. Her face human, kind, the Catherine I had known. She smiled faintly, eyes soft. Then her face split. The glow inside her cracked wide, spilling white fire. Her smile burned away, replaced by something eternal, merciless. "You are not priest," she said, voice now doubled, one soft, one thunder. "You are not brother, you are hunter." The word slammed through me again, hunter. The crucifix above collapsed, slamming into the altar, splintering into dust. The sound shook the nave. Catherine's form flickered, half memory, half vision. One moment human, one moment angel, both accusing. My eyes burned, my lungs clawed for air. I pressed the feather against the stone, begging it to anchor me. The glow spilled across the slab, bleeding into the rules until they burned brighter. Rule 4 seared across my sight. After each hunt, record the name of the fallen in the book of ash. My heart hammered, my vision blurred. Was Catherine the fallen? Was Cassiel? Were both? Their voices overlapped now, Chant, prayer, accusation, one word buried beneath it all, repeating, echoing, impossible to silence. Hunter. I clamped my teeth shut. Blood filled my mouth. The knave spun into shadow and flame, and when the chanting ended, one word remained, carved inside me deeper than bone. Hunter. The feather had cooled, but the weight of it chained me to the stone floor. My hand would not unclench. Blood crusted where the quill had cut into my palm. Then the air shifted. The nave groaned, wood splitting, stone grinding as though the whole ruin breathed. The side door creaked open, not the booths this time, not the mirror. The sixth chamber, blacker than the rest. A draft crawled out, cold, damp, thick with the stench of iron and rot. My lungs clenched against it. The door swung wider. Beyond it, only dark, not shadow, but a void. Something moved inside, slow, deliberate. A figure stepped forward, robes dragging across stone. The fabric was priest's cloth, black and heavy, frayed with age. His hands were pale, folded before him like in prayer. His head lifted as he emerged. He had no face. Where features should have been, there was only a smooth expanse, pale and blank, like clay that had never been carved. Federico. The name struck my mind, though he had not spoken. He stopped in the center of the nave, faceless head tilting as if to study me. The silence stretched. My chest heaved, but he did not move. Then he raised a hand, thin, bony, fingers stiff as wood. He did not point. He only held it there, suspended above me, as though waiting for my breath to match his rhythm. When he spoke, the voice was not his. It was mine. "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." My stomach turned. The sound rolled out of his blank head, but it carried my tone, my cadence. I tried to deny it, but the voice poured on. "I killed her." The words hit like hammers. I felt my mouth clench shut, but still the confession spilled, steady, relentless. I begged for mercy, but offered none. I prayed for forgiveness, but buried her voice. The booths rattled. Dust cascaded from the rafters. Every word shook the ruin like thunder, though no lips moved but mine inside his hollow body. Federico lowered his hand. The air pressed heavier. The crucifix fragments on the altar split again, wood snapping sharp as bone. The feather blazed back to life. Light bled from my fist, searing the dark. The glow spread across the nave, cutting into the shape of Federico's robes, revealing nothing underneath. Hollow, only emptiness draped in cloth. His voice deepened, still mine but warped, stretched. "You are not absolved." The slab of rules burned bright behind me. Letters carved hotter, each stroke searing across my vision. Rule 4 pulsed harder than the rest. After each hunt, record the name of the fallen in the book of ash. I shook my head, choking on breath. My knees locked against the stone. "I will not confess," I rasped. Federico tilted his faceless head. The hollow voice spilled louder. "You will. You already have. You confessed the moment you carried the feather." The pews groaned. The booths slammed open all at once. Black shapes poured out, crawling low, dragging twisted limbs, their mouths open in soundless prayer. They circled me, dozens, hundreds, pressing closer with every second. The feather's glow brightened until it was blinding. My eyes watered, but I could not shut them. The light carved across the shadows, but they did not retreat. They knelt instead. Every faceless shadow bent their head in worship, not toward Federico, toward me. My pulse thundered. My lungs refused air. Federico stepped closer. His hand hovered above my head again, gentle as blessing, heavy as execution. His blank face tilted down. My voice echoed from him one last time, calm, final. "Your judgment now." The feather burned brighter, heat searing through flesh to bone. The shadows knelt, their murmurs thick as smoke. My ears rang with the weight of voices that did not belong to living throats. The feather burned in my hand until flesh split, blood dripping down the shaft. Federico lowered his hand. The silence deepened. Then, the stone beneath the sixth chamber cracked. A fissure split the nave floor, groaning loud enough to drown every whisper. From the gap rose a stench, sharp and wet, heavier than incense, heavier than blood. The shadows pulled back, bowing lower, as if something greater had arrived. Fingers clawed up through the stone, white, stiff nails torn. Another hand followed. Both dragged a body through the crack. Abel. His chest was caved, ribs split like broken gates. His throat was cut wide, the wound still raw, still bleeding though he should have been long dead. His eyes were hollow sockets, yet somehow they found mine with a gaze that froze marrow. He stood crooked, trembling, but every step forward bent the nave itself. Blood dripped from his open chest, hissing when it touched the stone, leaving black scars. I tried to crawl back, but the shadows pressed behind me, their weight hurting me closer. Abel's mouth opened. At first, nothing, only a wet gurgle. Then words forced themselves out, thick and broken. "You left me." The feather throbbed in my palm. My lungs locked. I shook my head, but the word "no" died before it reached my lips. "You prayed for yourself," he said, "not for me." Every syllable sprayed dark blood, spattering across the pews, the walls, my face. It burned on my skin, heavy as oil. Federico stepped aside, robes brushing the floor, faceless head tilted as though watching judgment unfold. He did not need to speak. Abel's voice was verdict enough. I gripped the feather tighter. It flared, searing my bones. My scream burst out, ragged and raw. The glow carved lines across the nave, cutting light into the stone. Abel staggered closer. Each step widened the wound in his chest, ribs breaking further, exposing a heart blackened and shriveled. "You begged mercy," he rasped. "You gave none." The shadows echoed his words, not in unison, but in jagged fragments, as if the nave itself repeated his grief. My knees buckled. I dropped to the floor. Blood from my hand dripped onto the stone, mixing with his. The crack widened, spilling more heat, more stench, as if the pit below was breathing. Abel reached for me. His hand shook, bone showing through torn flesh. When his fingers brushed my shoulder, my vision spun white. I saw her, a woman's face pale, eyes glassy, blood running down her neck, her mouth open in a scream that made no sound. I tore free with a gasp, my chest convulsed. Abel loomed, his eyes burning black, his mouth widening until the skin split. "Confess," he roared, the sound layered, not his alone but countless voices inside him. The nave fractured, the ceiling split, showing not sky but void churning black. Pages rained down, torn scripture, glowing faint before catching flame midair. I raised the feather. The glow erupted, cutting through falling ash, through smoke. My arm shook as I held it, every muscle tearing. Abel lunged, his ribs spread wider, wings of bone splitting from his back, dripping blood. He swung toward me, not with hands, but with the jagged cage of his chest. The feather met him. Light burst. His scream tore through stone, through shadow, through bone. His body collapsed inward, flesh burning, bones cracking to dust. The heart shriveled, shrank, and dissolved. When the glow faded, only black ash remained where he had stood. The book of ash opened on the altar, though I had never touched it. Pages fluttered in a wind that did not exist. A name burned into the parchment, letters searing bright before cooling. Abel, fallen. The shadows bowed lower. Federico turned his faceless head toward me, silent. My chest heaved, my eyes burned, my hand bled around the feather. The nave was not empty. It waited. Ash swirled across the nave, the last fragments of Abel drifting like snow. The book of ash shut with a hollow snap, dust rising in a spiral. My lungs heaved. My chest burned as if the feather had branded its fire into my ribs. The silence did not last. A low rumble shook the altar. The stone split down its center, flames seeping through the crack like veins of molten light. The crucifix above collapsed, beams raining down in showers of sparks. From the fissure, a glow rose, not red, not gold, white fire, fractured, unstable, spilling shadows as much as light. Then the wings appeared, massive, broken, feathers frayed and torn. Each plume glowed faintly, cracked as if holding back fire that could not be contained. The air snapped with heat. Dust curled into smoke before the wings even touched it. The figure stepped free from the fire. Varsiel. He towered above the nave, taller than any mortal form should stand. His halo burned in shards, jagged pieces of light spinning above his head. His skin split with fissures of brightness, each crack bleeding white flame. His eyes glared down, not cruel, not kind, only absolute. The shadows that had bowed to Abel scattered, shrieking without voices. Even Federico stepped back, faceless head tilted low. The book of ash flung open again, pages whipping in a storm. Letters scrawled themselves, bleeding red across the parchment, faster than I could follow. Names, dozens, hundreds, angels fallen, hunted, consumed. Varsiel spread his wings. The nave cracked wider, walls groaning, roof shaking as if the ruin could not hold him. Ash churned into flame. Every breath I took seared my throat. The feather in my hand writhed, searing brighter than ever, its glow struggling against the fire pouring from him. He stepped forward. Stone broke beneath his weight. His gaze locked onto me, piercing, unblinking. I dropped to my knees. My body betrayed me. My bones bowed under the heat. Varsiel opened his mouth. The sound that escaped was not word, not chant. A roar. Thunder and shattering glass together, splitting air into shards. My ears bled. My teeth vibrated in my skull. The words formed inside the noise, too vast to belong to one voice. "Confess!" The feather screamed in my hand, its glow turning sharp, slicing through the roar. I clutched it tighter, though my flesh peeled. Varsiel bent low, his halo shards spinning faster, flames dripping from his wings. His gaze pinned me like nails. "Confess!" he thundered again, louder, the word crashing through the nave. My chest split with pain. I wanted to speak, to scream, but my throat closed. The air had weight, pressing down, refusing release. The book of ash slammed against the altar. Pages tore free, spinning into the firestorm. Each page bore a name, blackened, erased as the flames consumed them. The voices of the erased rose with the ash, screams, prayers, sobs, all drowning into one endless wail. I clamped my hands around the feather, lifting it high, though my arms shook violently. Its light struck against Varsiel's glow, two fires colliding, sparks tearing the shadows apart. He roared again. The nave split. The ceiling tore open. Above, no sky, only a void swirling with ash and lightning. White fire rained from his halo, striking the floor, burning scripture into the stone. Verses twisted, broken, crawling like worms across the cracks. I fell to my side, coughing blood. My vision swam. Through it, I saw Federico, still standing at the edge of the ruin, his faceless head turned toward me. He raised his hand once more, as if in silent command. The rule burned in me. After each hunt, record the name of the fallen, but Varsiel was no ordinary fallen. His name was not waiting to be written. His name had already been erased. My pulse hammered, my grip faltered. The feather writhed like it wanted to leap from my hand and pierce him itself. Varsiel's voice came again, lower this time, heavy as earth. "You are not absolved. You are never absolved." His wings flared wide, halo shards exploding into sparks. The nave drowned in fire. White light bled through every crack, pouring down in rivers that ate stone and shadow alike. Varsiel towered above, wings torn but burning brighter, halo shards spinning faster than thought. My body convulsed. Every breath dragged knives into my chest. The feather writhed in my hand, screaming with heat, branding my bones. "Confess!" Varsiel thundered. His voice shook the ruin, shook my skull, shook the marrow inside me. "Confess or be unmade." The book of ash flew open on the altar. Pages whipped in the firestorm, each glowing red before blackening into dust. Names vanished, erased as if they had never been written. I staggered toward it, every step tearing skin from my feet. My eyes watered blood. My arms trembled, but the feather pulled me forward like a leash. The book waited, pages blank, glowing white as flame. I fell against the altar. My knees cracked stone, my blood smeared the surface, sinking into the parchment. The feather dragged itself from my grip, quill stabbing into the page like a blade. Light flared. Words carved themselves in my blood. Not mine, not chosen, forced. The hunt does not end. It only passes hands. The letters burned. They writhed, twisting on the page, alive, pulsing like veins. The book trembled, breathing under my touch. Varsiel bent lower, his voice a roar pressed into one word. "Confess!" My throat tore open. The sound that escaped was not prayer, not denial, only a scream that the book swallowed whole. The feather sank deeper into the parchment. The page drank my blood until the glow dimmed, sealing the words forever. The firestorm slowed. The halo above Varsiel shattered, shards dissolving into sparks. His wings folded once, breaking apart, feathers burning into ash midair. His form collapsed inward, light devouring itself, leaving only dust and silence. I gasped, coughing blood across the altar. My hand clung to the book. It was no longer burning, no longer empty. It waited. The nave was ruin. The pews were cinders, the crucifix a black scar on the floor. But the book remained, its pages open, breathing faintly like an animal asleep. I raised my head. The shadows were gone. Federico was gone. Even Catherine's voice had faded. Only the book stayed. The letters glowed once more, faint but clear. "If you read this, the hunt belongs to you." The glow spilled from the page, staining my hands, my face, my vision. The words etched themselves inside my eyes. I blinked, and they burned brighter. I saw them even when I looked away. I staggered back, the nave spinning. My pulse throbbed with the same rhythm as the book. Each beat another command, another chain. The altar cracked. The book slid forward, falling to the floor with a sound louder than any bell. The page stayed open. The words stayed waiting. I knelt, unable to stand. My body shook, blood dripping onto the floor. My voice came ragged, breaking against the fire that still lingered in my chest. "I am telling this," I whispered, "only so you know what waits." The book pulsed. The feather glowed faint inside its spine. And if you are reading, my voice cracked into silence, my eyes burned with light. The next wings to tear may be yours. The book snapped shut, the nave drowned in dark.